Two River Theater's upcoming world premiere of A Doll's House runs from February 21st through March 15th. It's a reimagination of the influential 19th century playwright Henrik Ibsen's controversial play. What is worth saving? This question still echoes nearly 150 years after Ibsen first constructed A Doll's House, with this sensational story about a dark secret that threatens to destroy a family. Ibsen created drama's first feminist, and in its heroine, Nora Helmer, the playwright brought the struggles for personal liberation to vivid life. Now, in this world premiere adaptation, acclaimed director, writer, and filmmaker Justin Emeka reimagines A Doll's House in 1950s New Jersey, weaving black culture into one of the most powerful plays ever experienced. Justin Emeka joins us today on the WBGO Journal. Great to have you on the show.
It's so great to be here with you. Thank you.
You are on a roll, sir. You co-directed a powerful documentary, Song of Black Folks, that continues to air on PBS. It was part of the Tribeca Film Festival. We'll talk about that emotional project a little later in this interview. But
Mhm.
this world premiere of A Doll's House is a fascinating one. Tell me why you chose to reimagine this 19th century Norway-based play and turn
Yeah.
it into a story that deals with black culture in the 1950s New Jersey setting.
Yes. Well, a lot of my work has to do with, a lot of my work with classical theater has to do with, kind of reimagining it through a Black cultural lens. Every director of classical work, has to kind of start their process with like, why am I still telling this story 400, thousand years later? What is still relevant about it to the audience? And sometimes people keep it right where it is. Sometimes people get creative with trying to find ways to get a contemporary audience to invest and see themselves inside the story. And my particular way is oftentimes weaving in Black culture or Black cultural references into the world of the play, in a way that it's exciting. Now, I've always loved The Doll's House when Justin Waldman, the artistic director of Two Rivers, approached me about directing Doll's House. I was like, yeah, I love that play. I said, now you know what I do when I work with classical text, and he was like, yes, I know what you do. I love it. So, do you have an idea for Doll's House? And I said, yeah, I surely did. And then I started just weaving in, a lot of my own personal background. I was born in New Jersey, the theater's in New Jersey. So I said, huh, what does it mean to be in New Jersey? A little bit loosely set. And then we have this, such like hard gender roles and conservatism and nuclear family. And so trying to think of a time in American culture where that really resonated, and that's the 1950s, and kind of right on the tip of a social awakening that was happening in the 60s. And then so that's where I kind of started to bring those worlds in together. And then finally, shining a light on like Black middle class experience in America. Because so often we think of Blackness, Black culture as kind of being at a deficit model. But there's been a long history in this country of Black doctors, Black lawyers, immigrants, coming in. And so I just kind of wanted to also shine a light on that experience.
So, Justin, when I was looking at how you've adapted this play, it immediately took me back to I know you've directed Ma Rainey's Black Bottom from the legendary playwright August Wilson, and I thought of him when I heard about your adaptation. Has August Wilson's work been instrumental for you?
Oh, very much so. I mean, as a young artist, he was kind of the North Star as a young Black theater artist, kind of coming up in the 80s and 90s. So his work really, kind of his unapologetic Blackness, I would say. He was very proud to kind of assert what Black cultural meant on the cultural landscape of America and put it on stage, was very exciting and kind of liberating to an extent for me as a creative theater artist.
In order to pull off a reimagination, you have to have a great cast, and I know
Ooh.
you've put together quite a cast. Can you talk about the members and why they're special?
Oh man, I cannot say enough about this cast. I mean, I think this cast is really going to blow audiences away, starting with Cara Ricketts, who's playing Nora. I mean, it's a joy just to watch her work every day in rehearsal, and to see her navigate these challenges. And part of the, one of the things that like about doing this work is it opens up access to a role like Nora, to an African American, or to a Black actress who often doesn't get access to this material, and to again to see her kind of translate Nora through her own lens, her own experience has just been remarkable. And then of course have, Emmy nominated Pascal Armand as Christine Lind, who is phenomenal. Joshua Chebri, who's has Nigerian roots, and he's playing Torvald. Russell G. Jones, Ian Lassiter, and then of course a student of mine from Oberlin College, Kaylin Bryant, who is a phenomenal musician. I met when she was 17 years old, and I've been a fan of her work, all along. And she's largely a musician, but I've roped her in to be an actor and provide music within the show. It's going to be very exciting.
I've seen some of your Instagrams where you feature your students, and
Mm.
it's always very interesting to see. You're right in the midst of it. Not only a working director and you're adapting the show as well, but as you mentioned, you're an educator, you're a filmmaker, so you've all these hats. I want to know, as you saw this develop now in
Mhm.
the rehearsals, what was going through your mind? Because you have a concept, right?
Yeah.
You know that this is what I want to do, but until you see it with the actors performing your work, do you know, is it going to work? So how
Yeah.
enjoyable has this process been for you?
Oh, it's been wonderful. It's been really incredible in that regard, because I've taken a lot of liberties, and this is my own adaptation of it. I've created some characters that aren't in the original. I've changed some storylines, and so I was a little nervous. It's like, oh my gosh, who are you to, to do this to Ibsen's work, so to speak. But I think as an artist, you got to take a creative leap of faith. If you believe in your vision, you believe in your story, you can't kind of do it. You gotta go all in. Now that said, it might fall on its face. You also have to risk that. But I think, our first read through, when we're sitting at the table and everybody's hearing the voices for the first time, and feeling this story for the first time, there was a real sense of magic, like from jump, like, whoa, we have something really special here. When we got through and everyone just looked around and seeing everybody smiling and kind of lit up for being a part of the project, it was, really exciting.
I've also seen how excited you are when you're doing the promo for the show, basically saying, "Hey, you've got to come and see this show
Yes.
because of the experience." Can you
Mhm.
just give us a little synopsis of how your adaptation, so people who are wondering, well, I may have seen that play, I don't know enough about that play,
Yes.
what they can expect?
For sure, for sure. I would say largely, man, but probably about 70 to 80% of Ibsen's storyline is intact. I mean, it's such a powerful story, about a woman who's trying to preserve her family and find her identity within the context of the family, while also trying to find her own selfhood. But I think, what I've brought to it is typically is that Torvald, who is this conservative husband, and Nora, who is the perfect housewife. And Torvald in my production is a West Indian immigrant, so he's comes from a conservative background, and he's trying to work his way up, and he's just got this incredible position at the bank, but he's very nervous and scared that any one small step might ruin his chances. And whereas Nora is a biracial woman who inherited this house from her white father. And so they're trying to build this life, and trudge, kind of track a new legacy within this house. And so that's kind of, where it is now. Typically, her best friend is a widow. Christine Lind is a widow who comes to town. In my production, she is not a widow. She's a black woman who never married, but who tried to get into law school 3 times, but failed. And so now she's kind of returning home, trying to find herself. So again, a lot of the essence of the play is still there, but there is a lot of new stuff that you'll be like, whoa, what are they going to do here, with the original? And that's what I think is going to be really fun for audiences to see.
I think that's the key word. It's going to be fun because I love reimaginations.
Yes,
Think of the knowledge that you bring into this. When this play first came out
yes,
in the late 1800s,
Yeah.
It was so controversial. They were forcing Ibsen to rewrite the ending to
That's
the show,
right.
and he did
That's
it and
right.
later regretted that. Uh,
That's right.
could you feel maybe his pain as you were going through this?
Well, certainly, it's because it's interesting because that's when he took the play to London, to England, which was more this theater hub, and Ibsen was coming from Norway, which was kind of like the backwoods of theater, and people were kind of like, well, who is this guy? He's from where doing playwright? Well, no, 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 you need to change it. You need to do it like that, and again, he's trying to find his way in the theater world, and so he did acquiesce and change it in a way that I think again all contemporary artists can kind of identify with the choices we have to make in terms of as we're trying to find our way in this business, and what principles and what artistic stands do we hold and when do we let go and how we navigate that. So it's very interesting to see that Ibsen had that same journey with the play. We tend to think that a classic play is immediately a classic play. No, sometimes it takes 40, 50 years before people like really recognize it, particularly when you're like an Ibsen who's writing ahead of his time. So it's been really inspiring to just learn about Ibsen's journey with the play and his canon of work.
I want to talk about the experiences that you've had. You mentioned you grew up in New Jersey, but as a professional in your business, you've worked all over the place. You've been a part of the Old Globe, Yale Rep, Seattle Rep, Syracuse Stage, Philadelphia Theater Company, Classical Theater of Harlem. Spent 5 years as the resident director for the Pittsburgh Public Theater, and where you directed shows like Two Trains Running, Sweat, American Sun, Trouble in
Mhm.
Mind, and A Midsummer Night's Dream in Harlem. And I know the Pacific Northwest is special to you because
Yeah.
of songs of Black folk, which we'll talk about in a moment. But being all over the place, is that help make you a more rounded person, well-rounded person?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Also, like Nora's background in the play is also inspired by I am a biracial person. My mother was a white woman from Oregon. My father was a black man from Texas who got married at a time where it was still technically illegal in 13 states in the country for them to do so. And so I really grew up moving around a lot. Born in New Jersey. My father was in the military. So I really, was kind of forced to see a lot of different parts of the world, yeah, a lot of different parts of the country, and find my way into those worlds and meet different people who had different expectations of who they thought I should be, and I had to navigate all of that, and it really kind of led me to the theater. From a young age, I got involved in theater, and theater became somewhat of kind of a sanctuary for me. Wherever I moved, I would always try and find a theater in that area. And then through the theater, I would get to know the people in that community. So it's really how I've processed my life has been through stages, literally through stages. And so I just feel very fortunate and blessed to have had that passion in my life because I've also witnessed a lot of people who go through life looking for a passion, and searching. But I've always felt very fortunate that since I was like 7 years old, I knew I wanted to work on them stages, and it's really sheltered me in a lot of ways so that I feel grateful for. And I also feel a great responsibility to kind of be that inspiration for those who might, come and experience this work as well.
What a great way to be somebody who can adapt a show like this. And like you talked about, biracial issues and gender issues and culture issues and put it all together in one show that can be emotional. I want to talk about emotional. I want to talk a little bit about this documentary, Songs of Black Folk, a
Yes.
stirring 26-minute short film directed by you and Haley Watson. I watched it this week,
Mhm.
and it chronicles the Pacific Northwest first official celebration in Seattle via an intergenerational musical event, and it was set on the backdrop of Juneteenth.
Mhm.
I must say, you touched me. You touched me with this documentary, especially the sequence where this was centered around the visionary conductor and composer Ramon Bryant Braxton and his uncle, Reverend Dr. Leslie Braxton. When Ramon is there at the gravesite of his grandma and what an impact his grandma has made on his life. That's when it hits the heart, right,
Yeah.
Justin?
That's right. That's for sure. And I mean, and that's what art is supposed to do is to capture that and to make us feel, right? To make us feel like crying, make us feel like laughing. Because, I believe that it's those feelings that let us know that we're alive, and we're so often in life kind of discouraged from experiencing emotions. We have to be upright and we can't laugh too hard. We can't get too upset. We can't get too sad. We got to just kind of hold this line. But so, our art though allows us to experience joy, laughter, and feeling to remind us of the power of life, really. And so that journey, Songs of Black Folk, it was a old Seattle is another home of mine that I spent a lot of time in growing up, and it's really one of my creative homes where I kind of came of age in Seattle. And this is an extraordinary Black community, Black legacy out there that most people don't think about though. When you think of Seattle, you're not thinking Black culture, and so part of my journey has been kind of shining a light on Black experiences that happen in the Pacific Northwest. I like showing Black culture where you don't expect to find it. Also, like with an Ibsen, you don't think you're going to see Black culture when you come to Ibsen, but no, you're going to see, a Black cultural experience without taking away from Ibsen, but it like that shares the experience, so that makes Ibsen look good and makes Black culture look good. Everybody look good, and then to me, that's what America is.
So if you haven't seen Songs of Black Folk, you can still see it on PBS and check that out. It's a powerful show that will touch you deeply and will give you a better idea, I think, of the kind of projects that Justin Emeka is involved with. Because this one here, yeah, first of all, one of the comments, you know what's good when you can remember one of the quotes or at least what somebody says in the show. And
Yeah.
I believe it's Ramon starts off by saying, yeah, the Seattle area. Yeah, we had Jimi Hendrix, but that was years ago, right? So when you have little segments like that people remember, you know that you've grabbed them right away, and they're
Yeah.
going to. But the story is one that needs to be told, and
Yeah,
congratulations on that.
Ramon is an incredible, just an extraordinary musician, composer, conductor. Just so to be able to kind of shine a light on his story is a real privilege.
What's something that you enjoy the most? Is it filmmaking? Is it directing a play? Or are they all mixed in together for you?
Yeah, they kind of, the one thing that I like about theater and film is that they are the convergence of all art forms, because I kind of grew up doing a little bit of everything. I like to write, I like to play music, I sing, I might dance a little bit, I act, and so in the theater, it all comes. You got visual arts in the theater, you got poetry in the theater, you got drama, you got, so it really allows me to kind of engage all my creative instincts. For me, I've never been good to like just staying in one lane. If I just did even if I just directed, I kind of get bored. I need to write. Sometimes I need to perform. Sometimes going into film. So I just find myself my creative impulses kind of take me everywhere in theater and film. Just really allow me to explore that.
What have your students at Oberlin taught you?
Oh man. The beautiful thing about teaching students is that they always come in, they kind of remind me how important it is to be curious and to be hopeful and faithful. They kind of come into the room with infinite curiosity and infinite faith in the future, which is so refreshing sometimes, and every fall we get a new kind of wave of enthusiasm and inspiration of just, kind of reminds me the importance of keeping curious, of keep asking questions, of knowing that the more that you know, the more you know you don't know. And you can start to feel a little bit of exhaustion, like, oh, I've already did this or I've already done that. No, there's always a new jewel, a new nugget to be discovered in the thing that you've been doing years and years. And that's what students always remind me of.
What is it about? I usually come to this point at all the interviews that I do with when it comes to theater. What is it about New Jersey, local theater? It's such a vibrant scene. I mean, Two River Theater is just a great place, and there's always interesting shows like A Doll's House.
It's true. And I mean, I think you get so many different cultural influences though from New Jersey, within New Jersey, in my experience. Like I grew up in Englewood, New Jersey, and it was really a global community. I mean, there were people from Jamaica, there were people from Haiti, there were people from Puerto Rico, there were people from England, there were people from, I mean, just all in this little town, you know? And I feel like New Jersey kind of has a rich history of these like progressive suburban communities that are right outside, New York and these bigger cities where people kind of come to build families, and people come to build community. That's what I think you get in New Jersey, which makes it just a really special place and a really special place to tell stories and do art.
Last question for you. Magically, Henrik Ibsen appears at Two River Theater.
Come on.
He watches the show from the front row. He got comp tickets from
Uh-huh,
Justin,
uh-huh,
right?
uh-huh.
And he comes backstage. What do you want to ask him? And then he says, "Hey, let's go somewhere. Take me somewhere right now that you think I would enjoy." What would the conversation be, and where would you take him?
I mean, I think I would probably keep it simple, and say, hey, could we go get a drink? Right? If I wanted to get a little kind of romantic with it, let's go walk along the river because it's got some beautiful spaces here right along, in New Jersey that I really love and appreciate. I just love water. And then I've been just love to hear, kind of what he saw after all this time. Like, what does he still see new in his own work that's outlived him, you know? Because I think the beautiful thing about theater is like you gotta, as a great friend of mine once said, at some point with your creative work, you gotta release the baby and let the baby walk in the world without you, you know? And then you got to come back and then kind of engage with that baby grown up. And what's that conversation like? And so just like, what is that experience to see this work through this lens? And what new did he see, or what, strength was he reminded of through this lens, and just hear what he had to say.
Justin Emeka is just another great example of why I love doing interviews about the theater because you're just somebody who has so much passion and energy. And as you've talked about during this interview, you've been able to take everything from inside you and share it with us. And what a better way to do it than on stage? And you'll be doing that with your reimagination of A Doll's House that will run from February 21st through March 15th. And it's
Yeah.
once again the reimagination of Henrik Ibsen's controversial play. And I just know it's going to be great. And I thank you for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you. And it is, I think it's going to be one of the things that I love about theater, but kind of the ups and down of it is that it's fleeting. I mean, it's here for 3 weeks and then it's gone, And so you got to be there to experience it. Even watching a video of it is not the same thing. Hearing somebody tell it is not the same thing. And I think we are really creating an exciting opportunity for people to come and be in a theater and find inspiration and feel happiness and sadness and hope and all of that in a moment, and then it's gone. So I hope people come down and check it out.
Congratulations on the show. Congratulations on your recent doc that was at the Tribeca Film Festival and continued success.
Thank you so much.